are present. If you'll bear with me just for a moment, I'm going to pause my screen and I'm going to bring up the welcome email that you're going to receive. The welcome email from tech@InstanetForms.com. You're going to get that email. Hopefully you'll receive it into your inbox, but sometimes these messages do get filtered, so you might want to check your spam or bulk filters as well, just to see if it was rerouted out of your inbox into a different folder. But you will receive this email message from tech@InstanetSolutions.com, and it's going to provide you with some information, namely the login address, www.transactiondesk.com/login, and you will always be able to log in from this address. We just refer to it as our generic login page. You can always come back, you can bookmark this page, and you can use it to continuously log into your online account. As we move forward, we are going to complete integrations with your MLS provider, Flex MLS, so that once you're logged into your MLS account, you're going to have direct access to your new Transaction Desk and InstanetForms account. We will highlight some MLS integrations that are currently in place. The single sign-on link has just not been turned on. The target date for that turn on is January 9th. So look for that upcoming January 9th to be able to see the InstanetForms link within your MLS Flex account. Until then, transactiondesk.com/login. This welcome message does speak to a few features that we will see here in just another moment as well. What you'll need: internet requirements. If you're using a PC, Windows-based PC, you're going to be surfing on either Internet Explorer or Firefox, surfing or browsing, however you like to reference. But Internet Explorer or Firefox when using a PC. We are Mac compatible, so if you're using a Mac, you want to be on Safari browser. Safari browser on any Mac device, desktop, laptop, or tablet, iPads, iPad 2s, you can log in and access your InstanetForms account. The other internet requirement when using a PC is Adobe Reader 9. Now this is becoming less and less important, but for now please do have Adobe Acrobat Reader installed as the default PDF viewer. As we move forward, that's not going to be a requirement much longer, but for today it would be good to have that installed on your computer. So if you have questions, and we're going to bring up this, I'm going to have a little notepad that's going to show these numbers and these websites again as we go forward through this demonstration. But if you are taking notes or taking this stuff down, our tech support, this is both for sales and service. 800-668-8768. So if you would like to add additional features like digital signatures and AuthentiSign or DocBox document storage and faxing, you can call our sales department. They'd be happy to walk you through that process. We're going to talk about additional helps and support for the how do I questions, the training and that essential features of getting started. But otherwise, just continuing to scroll down this message, this is probably the most important part. When going to transactiondesk.com/login, you're going to have a first name, hopefully you know what that is, and your last name, and this unique password. This is just unique to your InstanetForms account. This is the only place you'll need that password is when you're logging in to your online account. So again, this is the welcome message that you will receive or hopefully have already received to your inbox of your email address that we received from Telluride Association. So whatever email address they had on file for you is the email address that we use to send you this welcome or getting started email. Tech@InstanetSolutions.com will be the sender. So please do look in both your inbox and spam or other bulk folders for that. Once you go to that login page, and that's where we're going to go now, if you'll bear with me for just a moment, we'll get to that. We'll get to that login page. We will navigate to that that login page so that we can get logged in and go through these steps of getting started. So again, first step, we want to go to type this in, so we're all doing it together. And you can certainly be logging in as well. If you have this information, you want to follow along, please do not hesitate to do so. I'm using Internet Explorer for this demonstration, www.transactiondesk.com/login. / if you're unfamiliar, it's the one that shares the key with the question mark on your keyboard. It's going to share that key. So we go to that TransactionDesk.login page. It's going to ask us for our first name, our last name, and our password. Does not look like the correct password. So let me pause my screen, make sure I'm getting the correct password. All right, typing that in, showing my screen. First name, last name, and password. You can do the remember me's, remember my password. There is that forgot password. We'll email it back to you again if you forget what it is or lose that welcome message. Clicking on login. You knew it was going to happen, right? One more time here. I'm going to copy it this time, so I'm going to avoid any of that. It is case sensitive, so you do want to use the proper casing. And log in. Now the first time you log in, this is what we call the pre-flight system check. This is where it is actually going to check that you are running these required Internet. Again, there's no proprietary software to download, but there is Internet requirements. The browser, it is checking. First one, pop-up here, let's just speak to it. You want to allow pop-ups from your Transaction Desk and InstanetForms account. There's just valuable pop-ups as we go through, save prompts, calendar pop-ups, and other informational pop-ups that are going to provide you with a better user experience. So please do use that pop-up, allow them from your computer to our website. You don't have to allow pop-ups from every website, but from our website, it will certainly benefit you to allow pop-ups. If you're not, you're going to get a bar at the bottom or at the top saying this website is trying to allow pop-ups, allow one time, allow, always allow, something like that. So please always allow pop-ups from your InstanetForms Transaction Desk account. I'm going to go ahead and close that pop-up. Browser, I'm on Internet Explorer 9.0, operating system Windows Vista. If any of you others are on Vista, I feel your pain. But it is going to check that. Now I have some green check marks here on the left-hand column. If you do not, if you're not running the appropriate browser and operating system configuration, you'll get a red X. You're going to get some information on what you need to do. Or if you don't have Adobe plugin, you are going to get some reminders or red X's and with some instructions and links to be able to appropriately access those features. So we do recommend Adobe 9.0 or above. But again, that's becoming less and less important as we are moving away from Adobe as our base forms technology. So, but for today, please do install it. If you get a red X, it'll direct you to Adobe's website to install Adobe Acrobat Reader. It's just a free reader version. That's all you'll need to get started. JavaScript and cookie support, it's really just basic Internet browsing technology. You'll most likely get checks here. If you don't, there will be instructions and links on how to set those features up. So and this is just the first run through. You're just going to see this the first time that you log in. You can rerun it. We'll kind of try to speak to the opportunities to rerun this pre-flight from any computer that you're sitting at because you are now online, web-based. You can access your online account from any computer, any Internet-enabled device. You can access your Transaction Desk and InstanetForms account. So you can rerun this to make sure you're accessing through those features. Clicking at the top right corner, I'm going to click here to continue because the next step when logging in for the first time is to set your terms of service. And you can select the appropriate time zone. For this instance, we'll choose Mountain Time. And really the terms of service certainly read it, review it, but it really just says please don't resell our service. And outside of that, if you can agree to not want to resell our service, you can accept that terms of service and click on the blue button, blue arrow in the bottom right corner. And as I hover my mouse there, you'll see it says continue. So continue there, clicking on that blue button, just hovering to see the little bubble instruction, clicking there. I'm going to continue in to my Transaction Desk or InstanetForms account. So that's the essentials of getting logged in, getting that welcome email message, receiving that, and using it to go through and get logged in, going through the pre-flight system check to log in to your account for the first time. So we're just going to point out some of these essential features. From now, the first thing about the next 10 minutes we're going to talk to, maybe 15 minutes, we're going to talk to InstanetForms, the library view. And then the final 30 minutes we're really going to talk about transaction files and how to set up a transaction file to get the highest and best use of your new member benefit. You can access individual forms through the library view. I am in the second row of links. But just before we do, let's just talk to some of these tabs just above. The Home tab, that's the view we're looking at right now. This is the Home tab. This is just a view, so we can kind of center ourselves and navigate here to where we want to go next. It's kind of just a landing page to say, okay, what do you want to do now? Go trade a transaction, work with an existing, start a new form, and so forth. Home tab. Moving left to right. Next is Desktop. That is just another view. And my sense is as you begin to use InstanetForms more and more, the desktop view could be a better landing page for you. This view will show the forms that you've created, transaction files that you've set up. It's more visibility into your online account, where the Home tab is just kind of a navigation page. The Desktop tab is more of a, I would say instructional, but it's more account-centric. It's showing you the content that you've created, the forms you've set up, the transaction files, so it just gives you a little bit more visibility into the features of your online files and forms. Moving to the right, Settings. Settings tab is a tab we cover in the follow-up session, our Build a Better File. The Settings tab is where you can go in and create account content. You can verify your user information. You can rerun the pre-flight system check. You can brand your outbound email messages with personal photos and company logos. You can set up transaction templates. You can set up quick start groups and clauses. These are all features of our next webinar session, Building Better Files. You can go to the Settings tab and add this content to your account and then use that content to better, more consistently and more efficiently start files, start forms, and leverage that content that you create. Personalize your account through your personal settings and Settings tab. Next tab is Calculator. It's a calculator. It is an amortization calculator, so you can use it if you don't have one already set up. You can certainly use this one. It's a very robust calculator. It will show a 30-year amortization table. One nice feature about the calendar that I like, it will actually do reverse payment. So buyers typically know how much they want to spend, but you never really know how much that equates to in a loan amount. So it will reverse calculate. So if you say we want to pay $1,500 a month over 30 years at 4% interest, it'll tell you how much you can borrow. So it's a nice reverse calculator as well. The Help tab all the way there in the top right corner of the screen is just that. It's help. It is 3 types of help. It's tutorial based. It's screenshots, it's Captivate videos, and instructions on how to complete specific actions. It's toll-free support that we showed earlier. Toll-free 1-800-668-8768 for sales and tech support. In that fashion, it's also chat. So if you prefer instant message-based support, there's also that type of help through instant messaging with tech support representatives. So Help tab combines all that different help within. At the end of the session, we're going to show YouTube accounts where you can go for more how do I sessions. How do I print that blank form? How do I email out that completed form? So we have a tremendous amount of online content that will help you moving forward. So those are the tabs at the top. Second row of links, contacts. Just to quickly speak about it, you do have unlimited storage for prospects and contacts. We have integrations with Microsoft Outlook and Top Producer so that you can import contacts into your online account. It's mostly for storage and use within your InstanetForms to insert into outbound email messages, to insert into new transaction files. So it's not a robust contact manager for drip email and things like that, but it is very convenient to have access to those contacts online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and be able to insert those contacts into files and outbound correspondence. Well, we are going to now click on the InstanetForms center link, clicking on Forms to look at the Forms Library View. I call it the library view because you're going to be able to view all of the forms that are online and accessible within InstanetForms. Predominantly Colorado forms, Colorado Real Estate Commission, right? CREC forms to be able to type up and deliver completed forms or even print blank forms. I think that is an essential feature, just knowing how to print a blank form. Let's just speak to the top left-hand side quickly. You can sort your forms. These drop-down triangles, an essential feature within InstanetForms. By clicking on those triangles, it's going to yield drop-down menus. This is where you're going to find the most features and services within your InstanetForms account, these drop-down triangles. So sorting, not a big deal, maybe not essential, but just want to highlight these drop-down menus. You can sort your forms in those different manner. This is an essential phrase. I would like to. You're going to see this phrase consistently throughout InstanetForms. Every time, and I did just say every, I'll even say always. Every time and always you see this I would like to phrase, you're going to see that drop-down triangle. When you click that triangle, it yields those menus of what you can do within those features. So if you were going to write down anything, if you were going to take down one note on a piece of paper or mentally, this is the note to take. I would like to. Essential feature of InstanetForms. I would like to phrase and those drop-down triangles. You can search. Just continuing to move down. You can search by forms by either name or unique identifier. Kind of less is more in this way. Type in fewer to bring back more results. Get more. Let's just type. We did buyer in the last session, so let's do listing. So I'm going to type listing and click on the search icon. It is a magnifying glass. We're going to look for all the forms with listing in that. In the form name. 6 forms were found. Looks good. They're highlighted below. And right now they're just highlighted. They're in green. They're highlighted. And we're going to have an opportunity to select those ones that are appropriate. Last little drop-down menu, view other periods. Simply referring to forms that we've created previously. Once you start going online, typing up forms, saving those typed up forms, you can view them for 90 days, 180 days, a year, or all the forms that you've ever created. Now, if you only view them for 90 days, they just kind of disappear from view, so it's not to clutter up your inbox or your library view with year-old forms. If you want to see those year-old forms, you can always view them, but they're not in your day-to-day activity. So this is just how long do you want to see a form that you've typed up. If you want to see them all, choose all forms. If you want to see them for the ones you typed up for all of 2011, which would be none, but I think you get the idea that this view other periods will show you all the forms that you created. Otherwise, they don't go anywhere. They're not in visibility to kind of declutter that library view. So these are all the forms and all the folders and foldering options there. What would be a good form to choose? Let's scroll down because these are highlighted. We'll just see the one. Maybe this is a good one because maybe this is the first disclosure that you need to deliver to any new prospect, right? Maybe that's a good example. You just got a phone duty call. You're at phone duty. You get a call. Someone interested in listing their home. They like to kind of get the ball rolling and that started. Maybe this is the first document that you need to deliver to them. They need to sign it so that they know the duties. Maybe you're at phone duty, maybe you get a referral, maybe you get paying off an email, whatever it is. However you come across that new prospect, they've contacted you and you want to deliver this to them. I selected it. I clicked on it. I hovered my mouse and I clicked it to select it. Now it's blue. That's how we know it's selected because it's blue. The right-hand side of our screen has changed. What do we want to do with this form? First thing that we want to highlight to do is print the blank form. We want to print it out. Just click on Print Blank Form. It's going to generate an Adobe Acrobat Reader file for this form. It's no longer fillable now. Now it's just an Adobe Acrobat Reader PDF document, if you will. So you could print out a dozen of these if you choose to. If that's what you want to do, you certainly have that option. Because file type, Adobe PDF, right-click and save target. So you can save it onto your offline, onto your desktop computer, your laptop, wherever you want to save an offline copy. You can do that. You can click there to save it. I'm going to slide my mouse down onto the form itself and then use my right mouse button. If you're using a PC, You finally get to use that right mouse button. If you're on a Mac, then you just double click, but on a PC, use the right mouse button to yield this menu, to print, the print menu. Print it to paper. Print as many copies as you like if that's what you're choosing to do. So you can print these forms as a blank way, and that's how you do it. Select the form, print, right-click on the form, and choose the print menu. Canceling back out here, top right corner, just clicking on cancel in the top right corner to leave that print view. Again, just chose print blank, and we got the opportunity to print that blank form. But perhaps you want to type it up first. Maybe you want to type in some basic information before you print it. Perhaps you want to type it up completely for this client before delivering it via print or even email. So now let's go to the Create New Form. And hopefully what you're going to find and see right now, maybe it'll be a big relief to you, that this is the same form that you've been working on using since you started in real estate. It may have revised it a time or two in that, depending on how long you've been in the business, but it's the same form that you've used over and over again. The only difference is the form's edit mode. It's just the program that's different, not the form. This is your or C-Rex form. All we did was program and post the form online for your access. You can see that we've got a little bit of autofill from information that we have based in our account. The only thing that's missing is my phone number, and only because I didn't have a phone number that I added to my account. Yours will. We got all that content from the association, your user, your name, your first and last, your phone numbers, your email addresses, the office that you work with. All of that content has been delivered to us, and that has been used to set up your new account. So it's going to use that to populate some fields. All of these light blue fields are fillable. So as we scroll down the page, we want to fill in all of the required and optional fields. So is this a seller agency situation, or is this transaction broker? Let's go with seller agency. I'm just going to check that box. Move to the next field, the date field. As I hover my mouse, it tells me the name of the field and the maximum number of characters that I can type into that field. Now this is a date, so there's a little date icon right next to it too. Calendar. When I click there, I get a pop-up. One of the benefits of allowing pop-ups, you'll get the pop-up. If you don't allow it, it'll suppress that pop-up. So let me just pick a date here. Maybe you know it's a pocket listing because they need to get some things done before they are ready to actually put it on the market. You can change it just because it popped up. You can still type in there. I am just clicking in there with my mouse. You can see my cursor is blinking. Get my mouse out of the way. You can see the blinking cursor, and you can type. You can type to add the detail that's appropriate, and we can then go to the next fillable field. Clicking on the field name, maybe we'll just put to be determined so that you know you can. Just type whatever you'd like into that field. Can you choose from the calendar and date field? Sure you can. Can you type in whatever you'd like? Absolutely. The majority, I would say 99% of these fields are very free-form text. You can type in letters and numbers and special characters, whatever's appropriate for that field. Is this working in a multi-person office? I would say majority of you do. I know there are some single person offices out there, but most likely you're going to be in that multi-person firm. Just down in the bottom right-hand corner, just clicking on the little down arrow there just to scroll down the page a little bit. We're going to go to the seller field. Again, hover my mouse, click to activate, and we'll go with my buddy Ben Benson here. He is the seller. Keyboard shortcut. You like keyboard shortcuts? I'm going to throw one at you. The Tab key on your keyboard. Clicking on Tab will take you to that next fillable field. So in our case, it's Instanet Realty. I want to go through, and it's Bob Broker. Again, I hit the Tab key. Tab key will take you to the next fillable field. Right now, you're like, well, where's the fillable field? It's actually the checkbox at line 53. Now, last keyboard shortcut, I promise. I'm not going to bore you with keyboard shortcuts, but I think it's a good one. It's the space bar. Space bar can add or remove check marks from those checkboxes. Tab. I like to use the Tab keys and keyboard shortcuts so I can keep my hands on the keyboard. I can move through more quickly to to the fillable fields and not miss any fillable fields. Sorry about that. Scrolling down, when asked, broker shall or shall not disclose the property buyer. Shall, I guess, but go through. I'm not going to go through every field. Go through, complete all of the required and optional fields. Scrolling down the page. Last one here, additional disclosures, and just clicked on that big open text field. We're at the left-hand indent, line 128. You can type or paste. I want to speak to that to add details to your form in Forms Edit mode. So anything that I highlight and copy to my computer's clipboard, so to speak, I can paste into my forms and contracts. There are no restrictions from copying and pasting. Nice thing about these big open text fields, it has that auto carriage return. So as you paste multiple lines of text or type, it's going to auto return, auto carriage return in those big open text fields. So once you complete, go through, type in all of that required and optional information. So that's good for typing. Going to go to the top left-hand side, all the way across to the top left corner of the screen, speaking to some of these drop-down menus. I'm at the File drop-down menu because you certainly can now, if you're finished, you can go to grab a new form from the library view and type that one. You can open an existing one. Not many of you are going to be doing this yet until you actually save a copy of a form. You're not going to be able to open any, but you can certainly access new forms right from Forms Editor. Open existing versions. Save your changes. InstanetForms Forms Editor will save your changes after the first 5 minutes and every 5 minutes thereafter, but certainly want to supplement that with personal saves as well. Save till your fingers bleed is what our old English professors used to say. You're never going to be hurt by saving too many times. We can save this to our hard drive as a PDF document, so we can type it up and then save it offline. We can also print it to paper. If we're typed it up and we're ready now, we're going to meet with the client, kitchen table, we're going to sit down, get them to sign it. We can certainly print it to paper. Another delivery method is via email. I'm at the Send. It's the next drop-down menu, Send via email. We can deliver this outbound via email message. I just selected that action, Send via email. Going to get a pop-up here so that we can, any luck here, send it outbound right from our InstanetForms account. Send it as a PDF attachment, as an email attachment, PDF attachment. We can also send it as a link. And if you are bold and would like to send it as a link and allow your recipient to make changes to the fillable fields, you can give them that option. So you can give them the option or fillable access to your online forms. If it's the craziest thing you've ever heard, just don't give them that. And they'll have access to this online form. Who's our recipient? Our recipient is Ben. Here's a little business card icon. So once you start saving to your contacts, you can insert your contacts into your outbound messages. I'm just going to put in his email here at gmail.com and carbon copy. So if you want to add a second, you can also add a second recipient with the comma. So we could add a comma here and add in additional recipient. We can carbon copy somebody. We can even blind copy somebody if we don't want the original recipient to see who else we sent it to. And we're just going to say, please review and call with questions. Because that's what I always type in these fields. Because, when would you use a blind carbon? Maybe you want to send it to your recipient and your broker because you want your broker to know that you sent this to your prospect. That's one example when you might want to send it to someone and not allow the original recipient to see that copied person. Send the email. And again, this is internet-based email directly from your InstanetForms account. It shows up that you are the sender. You are the sender. Your name shows up there in that from field, from you. The internet address, though, is do-not-reply@transactiondesk.com. So it's going to be coming from it's not really your email account. It's just your name and your InstanetForms account as the sender. So that's the sending features. Send, format, just to speak to it. You can format the fillable fields, the font style, color, and size. You can change casing, title case, watermarks as well. You can view, zoom in or zoom out, or even jump to a page. Looks like this is a 3-page form. If you want to jump to page 3, you certainly have that opportunity to do so. So that's the view. Transaction. We can add this form to a new transaction, or we can add this form to an existing. We don't have a transaction yet, but if we wanted to start a new file right from this form, we could certainly do that. Insert. Clauses. We're going to speak to clauses, provisions. You can add these to your account through the Settings tab. You type up clauses, and then you can paste those clauses into the appropriate fields in your Forms edit mode. So you create it in Settings, you access it and paste it through the Insert feature. There's help again, same help as that tab in the top right corner, online help, tutorial-based, live support, toll-free, and instant messaging-based support. There's that auto-save after the first 5 minutes and every 5 minutes thereafter. What we're going to do now is we're going to exit from the form editor. We're exiting out of Forms edit mode. We opened it up, we typed it, we completed it, we emailed it to our client. We took those appropriate steps to deliver that disclosure. Now maybe this is the most important feature. Maybe this is another essential feature. Where is it? Where did it go? How do I find it again? I typed it up, I saved it, but I have no idea where it is. Hey, it happens. Well, that is probably in Disclosures. I think that's where we found that one. So we go down to the Disclosure folder. I can either click on the plus sign one time or do the rapid double click on the folder name to expand it. So now we've expanded this folder so we can see all the different disclosures. Maybe that's a FSBO one, so I think we chose the right one. Now you can see that this Brokerage Duties and Disclosures has a plus sign next to it. That means I have a saved copy. It means I have a version of that online form. Again, I can double-click on the form name to see the version that we created. If I select that one, if I'm re-accessing the form that I just typed up, I select it, the right-hand side of our screen changes. I would like to. There's that phrase again, I would like to. Edit the form. Let's see what else is in that drop-down menu. Clicking the down arrow opens that menu. I can create a copy of this form. So in this instance, if you just typed up your information, your brokerage information, and save that, you can create copies of it to then add your client-specific information. I can delete it. I can edit the existing. What I'm going to do real quick is rename the form. I'm going to rename this form. Click on the go arrow. Typically, it's going to use the property address, but I'm going to select that next circle just below it, and I'm going to call it the Ben Benson Brokerage. A little too many characters here, so let's take this little feature out. We know that's what it is. Ben Benson. And rename the form. Click Rename, and it automatically renames the form under that main form, main blank form. Anytime I want to create a new version, I can create a copy of this one, or I can select above and create the new version. So whichever is the appropriate way, create that form template, or you can just start from scratch each time. This is the forms, one form at a time. From the library view, you access, type up, complete one form at a time. So with that said, now we want to talk about how to start transaction files so that we can create a complete form packet, because it is rare that you're going to be using one form at a time. I think most often you're going to have the disclosure with the listing agreement, with the seller's disclosure, with all of the other forms and contracts that are required to establish that relationship and listing agreement with your new client. So first things first, let's just go back to the Home tab. This is also a good time for me. Here we go. Some questions have come in. Somebody found it already. How do you auto-populate seller info? What we're going to do now is really show how to take advantage of those features. The Forms library really is more manual typing, adding in that content each time. When we work with transactions, that's what we're going to click here on now on transactions, we'll be able to add those types of transaction details, property information, seller's contact information. The details that we add to our file are going to auto-complete our form fields. So transaction files really are the highest and best way to use InstanetForms to get autocomplete features to work with complete form packets and really create and manage the sale process online. I think it is essential to see how to print a form, work with an individual form. That's maybe all some people want to do, but really the highest and best way is to create and work with transaction files. I started to say, if you do have questions, through that Go-To Training sidebar, you can expand that sidebar. There's a chat section. It's the bottom section within that Go-To Training sidebar. You can type your questions there. We'll be reviewing those as we go through the demonstration and answering them as they come in. So if somebody would like to, first thing, type in an MLS ID that you'd like to share with us, and I can show some MLS import features that are available to you as well. But first things first, starting the transaction. You see we've not created any in this account. You'll see this when you log in, and we'll go to create a file for this time. It says no transactions. Well, that's because we just haven't set any up yet. There's that phrase again, consistent phrase, I would like to. We are going to create a new transaction, but as pointed out, there's the drop-down triangle. Not a lot of features in there yet because we don't have any transactions. Once we start a transaction, more features will be added to that drop-down. So let's go. We're going to go here, and we're going to start a transaction file. Instead of working with one form in the library view, we're going to create a transaction and add multiple forms to our transaction file. So let's just stick with that same person, Benson, Ben, and he's single-family residential listing prospect. And again, this is just how I like to name my fields. This is free-form text, so please name your files as you are going to best identify them, or how your office requires you to name your files. Don't feel like that's how you have to name your files. That's just how I choose to name them for these demonstrations. But that is the only required field, is the transaction name. That is the only asterisk. I know it kind of looks like a little spitball there in the top left corner, but that is the only required field. Throughout the entire transaction file, that's the only requirement. So by default, that's all we have to do. Give it a name, and then we can come down to the bottom right corner and click Start Transaction. Basically start it with 0 content. We would be added in, our broker will be added in, but otherwise we'd have a pretty blank start with from scratch, basically. And that's kind of what we're going to do, but I just want to point out these other features to start adding content to the new file, because that's what these other features on this view allow you to do. First off, transaction type. Is it a requirement? No. Do I think it's a value? Yes. Residential listing. These are the 6 transaction types that all 400,000 licensed users have access to. If you don't see the transaction types that you commonly work with, add your own. Start personalizing, adding content to your account. Transaction types, condominiums, listings, transaction types, land and ranch, townhouses, whatever types of properties you most commonly work with. If you don't see them in the list, add them to your list. Add those transaction types. We're going to choose residential listing. Here's an import feature. Do you have an MLS? You may be saying, well, it's a new listing. There's no MLS set up yet, which may or may not be the case because you have access to all of the MLS data, not only actives, pendings, solds, withdrawns, expired. So someone else may have set one up in the past that you can use and leverage. This is where you can import property information from your MLS account into your InstanetForms account. So whatever the MLS, not just your properties, but anybody's properties, to start adding content to your new file, to have that content autofill the form fields. It's pretty obvious right here. I'm going to show you the not so obvious one. So bear with me as I just scroll past that import from MLS feature, and want to speak to populate from a transaction template feature. You can template your transaction files. So because, let's face it, when I say residential, single-family residential listing, you already know at least the 4 or 5 forms you're going to need, right? The listing agreement, the seller's disclosure, the broker's disclosure, any other required forms that you're going to need to get this file started. You can predetermine those forms and template them. Start your file from the template so that each time you start with those forms automatically attached. The next session, the Build Better session, I think it starts next week, we're We're going to speak to how to set these up, how to engage these transaction templates to significantly reduce time, energy, and effort when starting files. It happens to give you go-getters an opportunity is under the Settings tab. The Settings tab is where you can go in and set up a template and identify the forms that you want to automatically associate with particular transaction types. Use the transaction wizard. It is an optional item. We will use the wizard, but I always like to point out that checkbox is optional. So if you have wizard complexes, if you don't like to use wizards, if you don't like help in getting your file started, you don't have to use it. But otherwise, the wizard's just going to walk us through the steps of adding some content to our new file. Some of the content that we're going to add is ourselves and our broker. Am I the listing agent here? Am I the selling agent? Am I neither? Am I both? You know, the one that you select, you'll be added to that type of agent, your broker, that type of broker, to this transaction file. So we chose residential listing. Listing agent was selected by default. We could change it if necessary. We're just going to click here on Start Transaction, bottom right corner, starting the transaction. Again, this is just the first pass through your transaction to start adding whatever content that you have to get started. This little pop-up message, think of a transaction file like a replacement for that paper file. Add only the information that you have. Don't worry, you can come back at any time. If the step doesn't apply, we'll skip it. We'll go to the next. We can save and exit from this wizard and go right to our overview page at any time. So we can save and exit from the wizard at any time. You never have to see this message again if you don't want it. I have to discuss it each time, so I'm going to not check that. But just decide if you want to suppress that message, do not show it again. Read it once. I think that's probably enough. But otherwise, move forward. Second step. First step was giving it a name. The second step is adding property information. We will import. If someone's nice enough to send me an MLS ID, we'll use that to import property information into this file. Because what don't you see here? There's no asterisks. You can add or not any content that you're going to benefit from. The benefit is that it will autofill the corresponding fields in the form. So as we attach forms in step 5, forms will be auto-filled with the details that we add here. So do you have to? No. Does it benefit you? I think so. I scroll to the bottom so you can see all the details that you can add. But just to point out or prove that doesn't matter, just click Next. If you don't have it, skip. Click Next. Dates. Date fields. So let's pick a date. Clicking on the date icon, we get the date pop up. Remember we said it was going to be a pocket listing. We choose the date. Expiration. Sure, why not? Select the expiration date. Maybe just pick a year out and select that appropriate date. If you don't know it, you can come back at any time. These are date icons. You can certainly type in the fields as well if you would rather type than pick from the calendar. Otherwise, add your dates whenever you have them. You can come back at any time and add them in. Clicked on Next. Contacts and participants. We were added. Listing broker, listing agent. I would like to. It's becoming a familiar phrase yet. I'm going to keep pointing it out. There's that drop-down triangle to yield the menus. Otherwise, click on Next or Go. Excuse me. We want to click on that Go arrow because the first thing that we want to do is add our transaction contact type. Ben Benson is our contact. He is a seller type. I choose seller from the list. Didn't see the contact type in the list? Add it in. Personalize your account. Add content to your account. We are going with seller. Bottom right corner, clicking on Continue. Who is our seller prospect? It's Ben Benson. Here's where the insert from contacts. So if we had him saved previously, he was a contact that we've spoken with before, and we saved him in, we can insert him into this file. I'm just going to add a cell phone. I think sometimes if it is that phone duty call, sometimes you're lucky to get a cell phone number and an email address. So we'll go with that. Another feature that we cover in the next session, but would just like to point it out here, you can grant your contact access as a transaction participant. You can give your contact access to your online file. We cover it more in depth in the next session, but you can give them specific access to specific features for specific timelines within your online transaction file. It's granting participant access. Otherwise, I am going to add Ben to my contact database. So as I slide over to the bottom right corner and click Save Contact Information, click, two things happen. One, Ben is added to my transaction file. The second thing that happened was Ben was saved to my contact database. If I have multiple sellers, I want to add them in separately, even if they're husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, parents and children, add them in separately so that each seller contact will autofill the printed name fields under those signature lines. We want to benefit from as much autofill as we can. Add them in separately. They will separately autofill each printed name field under each signature line. Otherwise, click on Next. Now we get to the forms. This probably is the most important part, is adding forms to our transaction. There's that phrase again. You ready to throw up on me because I've said it too many times? I would like to add new forms. Click on the go arrow. And the reason I'm just trying to be very redundant with that phrase is if you're not using it, if you're not recognizing that phrase in those drop-down menus, you're going to miss out on about 75% of the features within InstanetForms. So that's why I think it's so important. Here's the library. I know it doesn't look like much now, but when I double-click on the folder name, I see all the folders. When I double-click on the disclosures, I'm going to choose that brokerage disclosure. I'm going to press and hold the control key and select that additional form. The CTRL key, it's on your keyboard. You press and hold that down so that we can select multiple forms from the library. Square footage disclosure, press and hold control, select the form. I can also click on the plus sign, that little plus sign just to the left of the folder. Clicking there one time will expand that folder. So let's choose exclusive right to buy. We went to exclusive right to sell. Press and hold, select. Go through, pick all the forms. Again, this is just the first pass. So I'm going to click here to add selected forms. These are the 4 that I know I need every time. If this property is unique, like all of them are, or the seller is unique and I needed to add the on-site septic or the private well or some other property or client specific, I certainly am going to have that opportunity. Moving forward, time is of the essence. We're coming down to about the last 7 to 10 minutes. This is just the first pass using the wizard to add some content to our new file. So I'll show you, point out multiple places where you can continue to add forms. Clicking on Next. Last step, we call it working with others. We spoke to in step 4 how you can give your contacts participant access. Working with others is if you are in a listing team or have a business partner or a transaction coordinator that you want to share within your office. They are other licensed users, realtors and realtor users within your office, your team members, your business partner, your transaction coordinator. Under the Settings tab, you can set them up in a share situation so that when you want to, you can share your files with those folks. We talk about that more in the follow-up Building Better Files session. Save and exit. We're exiting here, bottom left, or big blue button, like moths to a flame, the big blue button in the top center, shading to the right, save and exit. We're merely exiting from the wizard. We could have exited after any step to come to this overview page. If we opted out of the wizard from the get-go, we would have come right to this page. The wizard just walked us through adding content to our new file. I would like to. There's that phrase again. This is a good one. This is a big one. I would like to. Before we go there, hold on. Hold that thought. I want to speak to the dashboard on the left-hand side, these red bullet points. I want to make sure you know where you are here. This is the transaction overview. It is the top red bullet point in the dashboard. We are looking at the transaction overview. From this view, this I would like to drop-down menu. What I want to point out right now is import data. This is the one. Someone was kind enough to send me an MLS ID. I appreciate that. Selecting that, clicking on the go arrow, because this is the not so obvious place to import into your transaction file. We saw it when we were getting on the start page, but this is where we can start it now. 25622. So we type in the MLS ID. Just make sure your ID matches the property type. I'm assuming this is single-family residential, but if it's not, if it's commercial, condominium, fractional, or land, make sure that you're choosing the correct property type with that MLS ID. And otherwise, click on Import Data. Clicking on import data. It's going to reach out to the MLS. It's going to recognize me with any. Perhaps it's not a single-family residential. Let me try condo. Whoops. And import. Aha. That's all it is. So here it's making lemonade out of lemons, right? So what's a condominium? Points out that you do want to make sure that your property type matches your MLS. Now it works. Now it pulled it in. So if you do get those errors, just make sure that your MLS matches that property type. Pulls in address, city, state, zip. It's also going to pull in typically, I apologize, I overwrote the listing agent and broker by having them in my account already. But if you're from a buyer situation, you're going to use these a lot when you're representing the buyer and they've identified a property and you're importing. It's going to bring in the seller. It's going to bring in the listing agent and listing broker. It's going to bring this content into your transaction file. We can auto-populate our forms with this detail. So just speaking to these red bullet points just for a moment, I know we got about 5 minutes left. We're in the overview screen. Dates, we can go back to this. Does this look familiar? Transaction dates? Yes, it was a step of the wizard. We can go back now and add any dates. We can update those date fields as they become known. Transaction history may be worth the price of admission to online transaction management. Robust history of all of the activity that takes place within your online account, especially if you're granting participant access or sharing your files. The history captures all of the activity by all of the participants and shares and yourself and anyone who's accessing your file, time and date stamped, when the action took place, what the action was, and if any value changed, it will show you the old value and the new value. So history, very robust. General information. Updating your transaction name, because maybe when they go from a prospect to a client, you want to change the file name. General information will allow you to do that. Maybe as it goes from an active to a pending to close, you want to change the status. General information will allow you to choose those different status types within your online transaction file. Property information, remember that one is a step of the property details. Same link. As that becomes known, you can go in and add, update, or change. Call log is great for leaving notes and substantive conversations and capturing that type of dialogue and conversations and leaving notes and memos within your online transaction file for the call log. Time and date stamps, who left it, what was the note or what the call was about. Contacts and participants, we were in that step. Go back at any time, add more contacts, revise contact information, grant or take away participant access. What we want to click on right now is InstanetForms, and I always work from the dashboard, even though it's very tempting to want to just click on the form name there on the right-hand side of the overview. I always come to Forms. I would like to. There's Add New Forms. If we've become identified, another form is required, we can add that form in right here in our transaction file. So we have that opportunity. I'm going to go to the drop-down arrow just to point out auto-populate forms is a second. Copy forms, delete, email, print, all of these features are available. We're going to auto-populate, update our forms. I just typically click on this link. It's why I work from the dashboard, so that every time I go to work in a form, I auto-populate or update my form with transaction file details. That's the way details flow from your file to your forms. You add the detail to your transaction file, you auto-populate your forms with that detail. So where do we want to go? Now that I've got the on-screen confirmation that my forms have been successfully updated, I am going to click on the form name to launch the form in Forms Edit mode. Hopefully this is looking reasonably familiar. We looked at Forms Editor with an individual form. It is 97% the same as working with an individual form. The 3% that are different, well, one is the column here on the right-hand side of the screen. This column shows the 4 forms that we currently have attached to this transaction file. Maybe one of the nicest things about this column is that you can collapse the column. That red minus sign there in the top left corner of the column, by clicking there, it's going to collapse that column against the right-hand side of the screen. So I have better visual purchase of the form that I'm working on. The other difference within Forms Editor is this transaction right here, to be able to add a new form right to your transaction file. So maybe if you're looking at that list going, oh man, I left off that disclosure or that commission agreement or whatever it is that you need to add in, you can access your Forms library from the transaction menu here and add a new form right to your existing transaction file. Nice feature from adding it from here is it will auto-fill this new form with our transaction file details. All of the other drop-downs are the same. File, same features. Send, same features. Format, same features. So what do you want to do? You want to go through and you want to complete all of the required and optional fields. You want to go through and select if it's seller agency or brokerage. You want to put in the date that you are typing up this form. You want to confirm that the information is up to date and correct. We did benefit from some information here. Sellers, brokerage, broker, legal description, address, city, state, zip. So this content was added. Dates came over, list date, expiration dates. Make sure we are selecting all the appropriate and required fields. I'm just using the down arrow on my keyboard to scroll down the page, go through, complete all of the required and optional fields. These are the forms you've been working on since you became a realtor, whether or not they were revised or not. But again, just the Forms Editor is different. You know which fields need to be completed. You know what needs to be done to successfully complete these forms and contracts. I want to point something out is I'm going to leave this form. It's now a plus sign, top right-hand side of the screen, to expand that column window, to be able to click on the next form to go to that seller's disclosure, and a pop-up that we're going to get. Do you want to save your changes? If you make changes to your form and you try to leave the form without saving changes, you will be prompted. If there's any reason to allow pop-ups, this may be the one. If it saves you one time, it's worth allowing pop-ups from your InstanetForms account. So yes, I do want to save my changes. Click yes, saves my changes, opens that next form. Nice feature with working in transaction files. I can go from form to form more quickly, more easily, and all these forms are populated with that transaction file detail, property address, and what other content came over, probably seller's name. Let's see if this is, as I scroll down, I do want to show this. Minimize that and make it a little bit larger to point out what I was speaking to about those printed name fields. So there are signature lines. We add them in separately so that each seller will autofill those printed fields. Now, can I type in here? Sure, I can. But I would think I would much more prefer it to autofill from my transaction file. So go through, complete all of the required fields in all of the required forms. When you do, we exit from the form editor. I know I didn't save my change. I'm going to point it out again. You will be prompted to do so. Exiting from the form editor. Going back to our forms page of our transaction file. Because what do I do now? Do I want to deliver these outbound by email? Do I want to merge them all into a PDF document? I'm right under the I would like to phrase. Clicking on that forms checkbox will select all the forms that we have added. Do we need to send them all right now? Yeah, it looks reasonable. These are the 4 that I wanted. What do I want to do with these 4 forms? Drop down arrow. Do I want to copy them? Do I want to delete them? Probably not. Do I want to print them to PDF? I'm going to choose that option because this is a way I can merge these individual forms into one comprehensive PDF. I could certainly email them all out right now as links or PDF attachments to an email message, but I want to print selected forms to PDF to merge them into one form packet. Click on the go arrow there. I can put them in the appropriate sort order. That disclosure probably is first. Let's use the down arrow because I think that seller's disclosure would probably be last. Let's use the up arrow to move the exclusive right to sell into that second position. I'm creating a meaningful sort order and I'm generating the PDF document. InstanetForms is now going to merge these individual forms into one comprehensive PDF packet. I can take that PDF, I can print it to paper, I can take that PDF, attach it to an outbound email message, I can take those appropriate steps. Maybe some of you are interested in digital signatures. If you choose to add AuthentiSign to your InstanetForms account, you could prepare these forms for digital signatures. and deliver them outbound to get digital signatures for your signing purposes. So the path diverges in the wood a little bit, because I think some of you are going to print it to paper for that kitchen table, sit down signage. I think some of you are going to email it to your client or prospect, and they're going to print it out, sign it, and either fax or email or deliver it to you somehow. Some of you maybe even already have a digital signature product. If that's the case, save this as a PDF document to your computer so that you can access your digital signature product and upload that completed form packet into your existing digital form provider. If you choose AuthentiSign, AuthentiSign is integrated with your Transaction Desk and InstanetForms account. If you choose to move forward with AuthentiSign, you will see an additional red bullet point here in the dashboard for AuthentiSign to be able to go right from your files to start preparing them for digital signatures. So there's some instructions here at the bottom. We can open this PDF. I'll just click there on open, and it'll open up the PDF. I can review it. I could print it. I could take the appropriate steps to now deliver this to my client or whoever's the appropriate next recipient. So we're sliding past our end time. I want to be very mindful of your time and appreciative of the opportunity to present from our forms here on the dashboard. I'm going to go back to the overview page, just to kind of back out here a little bit. Overview page of our transaction file. Again, you can come back in. Let's just point that out. Going back to transactions, the transaction link. Top center of the screen, shading just to the right a little bit. Now that I've created the transaction, I can see it here in my list. I can come back to it at any time, add to it, update it, revise it, take appropriate steps with that online transaction file. From here, I'm going to go back out to the Home tab. I'm going to re-raise this audio message. I'm going to scroll down so we can speak to some features, websites, and other options that you might have a value for. If you would like to schedule a webinar specifically for your real estate team or your real estate office, we offer those free services. They're more interactive, where you can actually speak to each other. We can discuss implementation strategies to make sure that everyone is getting the highest and best use of their new member benefits. Tungle.me/webinar Greg is our calendar. You can reference it for time and date, so schedule for the amount of time on the day and time that would be appropriate. If you're on Twitter, you can certainly follow us, twitter.com/webinar Greg. Join in the conversation there. This is just a redundant, let me delete this one out, it's just a redundant one. Transaction Desk, www.2.transactiondesk, that's that generic login page that you're going to want to use. It's on that welcome email as well, but just to make sure you have it again, transactiondesk.com/login, first name, last name, and that appropriate password. Questions, comments, general observations, you certainly can continue to use the chat section to type in those questions as we wind out this session. Otherwise, webinars@instanetsolutions.com is a good one going forward. Questions, comments, general observations, let us know what we can do to best assist you getting started. Logos at InstanetSolutions.com. If you'd like to brand your forms library, this is more from the office level, but we can brand your forms library with your company logo so that each time you type up a form, it'll have the Telluride logo and your office logo. So that is a good opportunity to continue that branding service. YouTube.com/Instanet Webinars. If you just can't wait till that next webinar session, you can go to our online YouTube account, youtube.com/Instanet Webinars. Anywhere from a little 1 to 3 minute, how do I print that blank form again? How do I email it out? How do I add a contact? 1 to 3 minute how do I tutorials, all the way up to 60-minute full session overviews. You can find them on youtube.com. You can find a copy of that Build a Better session. If you don't want to wait till next week to get the live session, you can go online and download and play back the recorded session anytime you have interest or insomnia. You can access our recorded content. There's that toll-free number again, toll-free, 800-668-8768. If you want to add features to your account, if you have a what is going on a question, you could give us a call Monday through Friday. I believe from a mountain time, it's would be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, Monday through Friday. You can contact us at that toll-free number. Otherwise, I will remain available for a few minutes to continue to answer questions through that chat section. I am going to log out of the audio portion. I'm going to be very thankful of the opportunity to present. I hope everyone has a tremendous holiday, New Year's holiday, and until we webinar again, I hope you have a tremendous day.